Good morning, good morning, good morning. What is going on, my friend? How the heck are you? I am just going to make sure that I am in all the right places, in all the right areas. Hopefully, I'm a little behind today. Drop me a note in the chat if you are over on the website. I would love to hear from you. MikeCameron.ca/live. Otherwise, where are we? Where are we? Come on, my friend. Come on. All right. I am. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm running a little bit ragged, running a little bit late today. All right, my friends. Well, I don't know. Somebody shoot me a note if I am live on Facebook. I'm sure I'm live on LinkedIn. Go to mikecameron.ca/live and pop on into the chat there, and we will get going. Welcome to Men Up with Mike. Good morning, Linda. Linda made it over from LinkedIn. Thank you so much for popping in. I'm having some trouble this morning with the Facebook live stream, and I'm not quite sure why the heck this thing isn't streaming the way it's supposed to be streaming. So yeah, it says it should be. Anyways, I am here. Welcome to Men Up with Mike. This is the show where we talk about extraordinary top performance, how to do the best version of you possibly can. Good morning, Anne. How are you? Good to see you here. I don't know if we're live on Facebook or not, Anne, so we're just gonna wing it today. We are going to keep going. So I'm super pumped this morning. I had a good workout this morning. I've had a couple of really cool things happen in the last couple of days that I wanted to share with you. And today we are going to talk a little bit about forgiveness and maybe a different angle on forgiveness that we don't always look at, that we don't always see. So again, my hope is that through these conversations, I can inspire you to become that best version of yourself. I can give you some tips, some tricks, some tools in order how to show up your best possible way in this world. Anne says, nope, I'm not on Facebook. You know what? I will upload it to Facebook later. I don't know why it's not streaming live. That is really bizarre. I ended up having a bit of a late morning this morning, so I was running a little bit behind, and I might have rushed through a setting or two. But I'm glad you guys are here with me on the website. I appreciate you immensely. Clearly, I made it to LinkedIn. Linda, did I make it to LinkedIn? It seems to be broadcasting to LinkedIn, but maybe not to Facebook, and that's okay. I will post it later, and folks can watch later. We'll lose some of the interaction, so maybe this will be a little shorter unless you guys have lots of conversation. Thank you, Anne, for noticing my haircut. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. All right, so before we dive into our topic, I got to do a little bit of a boast. Not even a boast, it's just a fact of the matter. It's a testimonial that came in yesterday from one of the guys that is in our group coaching program, and I was absolutely blown away by his testimonial, his comments. I'd asked him for a testimonial, but this was far beyond what I had expected. So I'm going to read it to you now. And I'm starting a new intake. All you guys out there, I am starting a new intake on November 1st. So we will have another contingent of men coming in. So if you are interested and available, we will be running Thursday nights at 6:30 p.m. for approximately 90 minutes, depending on how much chitter chatter we get. But listen to this testimonial. This is from Austin. Austin says, I've been following Mike's journey for a number of years and have always been impressed by his ability to speak from the heart with passion without losing himself in emotion. When the opportunity came up to be a part of a group coaching session to design a lifestyle that I wanted to live, it took all of 45 seconds for me to commit to the 4-week program. Logging into that first session, I was wrought with anxiety and thoughts of what the heck did I get myself into, and other like thoughts when venturing into the unknown. In that first session, I saw more raw emotion and honesty with self from a group of men than I have ever experienced in my entire life. Over the following weeks, we went deep into the why of where we are today and the how of where we want to be in the future. I learned about myself from hearing others speak on topics that I thought I was alone in, yet in a group of guys where I was at least 15 years younger then, we bonded over these things. The only words I can use to describe the experience are surreal and exceptional. Mike's ability to bring out the best version of oneself and craft an experience unique to the involved members was incredible. And if it wasn't for a big scheduling conflict for me, I would continue to be a part for the foreseeable future. Forget every self-help book or podcast or self-proclaimed guru out there. Mike Cameron is a living example of what we as men are missing out on by not being honest and true to ourselves. Can't recommend enough. So, yeah, that got me a little bit. That's why I do what I do. When I can have that kind of impact on somebody's life, that's what makes it all worthwhile. That is exactly why I do what I do. So it was super, super exciting to hear that. The other note that I got, I actually woke up to this morning because they sent it late last night, was somebody that had just finished my book and had said that it gave new context. They've been watching me on these morning shows for a while, but it gave new context to some of the things that I talk about. So if you haven't read my book yet, I would highly recommend you do that, because some of these things that I kind of gloss over, skim over, touch on in these Men Up with Mikes, you'll maybe get a little bit of a deeper understanding of where I'm coming from and some of the practices that I employ in my life that you can employ in yours. So, that said, there's enough of the sales pitch stuff. And it's so great to hear someone benefits from just talking, but a bunch of like-minded or not men. Yeah, again, it's the talking is the piece of it, but it's the talking that gets us to find the actions that we need to take. So I'm not a big fan of just talk, as we had that conversation, was it yesterday or the day before? That why I'm sick of building awareness. It's more than just conversation. It's more than just talk. So let's talk about a different kind of forgiveness. I think most of us understand, at least at some level, the depth of experience that forgiveness can provide us, the healing power of forgiveness, the power for us to move forward in our lives and not be as stuck in the past as we can be. And by forgiving others who have wronged us, it's not about releasing them, it's about releasing us. You know, I wrote a piece on this, and I'll drop a link in the comments in the notes here and talk about it. I wrote a piece entitled "When Your Girlfriend Is Murdered," and I talked about, you know, some of the hardest things that I've ever had to do in my life, and you know, the first of which was when my wife and I split up and we had to have that conversation with my kids. I thought for sure that was going to be the hardest thing that I would ever have to do in my life. It was soul crushing. It was absolutely heartbreaking. And then, of course, when Colleen was killed, I thought that was the hardest thing, again, that I would ever have to experience in my life. I was wrong. I was wrong on both counts. At some point in that journey, a number of individuals had sent me um, a parable called The Little Soul and the Sun. And if you're not familiar with it, it's worth looking at. It's worth checking out. It's a very short story, a very short parable. And when I read that, the enormity of what I realized I had to do at that point was crushing. The weight of understanding of what I had to do in that moment was unbelievable. It was, again, just this whole entire weight of what felt like the weight of the entire world, the universe. Like it was crushing when I realized what I had to do was to forgive the man that took her. And that parable again just summed it up beautifully. It's fairly religious. I'm not a religious kind of guy, but the moral of that story was absolutely incredible. And so understanding that next part in my journey was forgiveness. And we talked a little bit about this last night in one of our group sessions. We were talking about trust. So I don't know how we ended up getting onto forgiveness, but that is the way that it works many times, is we start talking about one thing and that leads to another, and we veer off onto all these different paths. It's a pretty incredible journey. But we started talking about forgiveness, and Dennis, one of the guys, shared his take on forgiveness that I hadn't thought about before, or in a way I hadn't thought about before. And it was really quite fascinating. And he talked about forgiveness in the context of, think about when you forgive a debt. So if somebody owes you $100, you know that they can't pay it, or they're not in a position to pay it, so you forgive that debt. So it's still a type of forgiveness, but it's a little different than how we typically think of forgiveness. So when we think of somebody that's wronged us, we often think about forgiving that person, the individual that has wronged us, expressing forgiveness to them or to the action. But what if we started thinking about, okay, so that action, that dastardly deed, that thing that we need to forgive, what if we started thinking about what that thing cost us? What have we lost in that process? So based on somebody's actions that we feel we maybe need to forgive, typically there's a loss associated with that. So it's about cataloging that loss. What is the loss? If your partner cheats on you, obviously there's a need to find forgiveness if you're going to move forward. But maybe it's more than just a forgiveness of the individual, of the act, of the behavior. But what have you lost there? So you've lost trust. You've lost that picture perfect marriage. I've been happily married for 30 years. You lose the ability to say that. There are a bunch of things that you lose when something like that happens. So making a list of all of those things that you've lost and then forgiving them. Just like you might forgive a debt. Somebody owes you $100. It's okay. That debt is forgiven. It's released. It's let go. So what if we looked at forgiveness from somebody that's wronged us in the same kind of vein? What if we looked at it in the same light? What is the cost of what they have done to us? What have we lost as a result of what they have done to us? And can we find a way to release that loss, to forgive that loss? Anne says to forgive something substantive is much easier than forgiving something emotional. It is, for sure. So this is why I thought this practice was quite interesting. What are the things we've lost because of that substantive action, that behavior? And can we forgive those pieces, those losses? Can we release them? Can we let them go? And then one of the other guys had a really interesting thought as well. He said, what if we also made a list of what we stand to lose if we don't forgive those past losses? If we hold on to resentment, if we hold on to that anger, if we hold on to that bitterness, because until we can release the losses that pain has caused us, there really can never be true forgiveness, because it's always going to come back up. So again, that trust piece with a partner who's been unfaithful, that I've always wanted to be able to say I've been happily married for 30 years or 50 years or whatever it is, that's gone. If we don't release that, maybe every anniversary that's going to come up. And we can never truly move forward. And again, what have we got to lose if we don't release those? What have we lost in the past? But also, what do we risk losing in the future if we hang on to this? And that can be a really powerful exercise. Looking for my notebook, it's not here. Grabbing that notebook, making a list of, maybe on one side, start a list of what have we lost already? And then on the other side, what do we stand to lose if we don't forgive this, if we don't forgive this loss, if we don't forgive this behavior? Because I bet that list would be substantial. And that list would feature a whole bunch of things that you have no interest in having happen to you, that you have no interest in losing in the future. And again, we come back to this. We can't change what's happened. We can't change the past. But we do have an opportunity to influence the future and how we show up. So this, for me, was definitely a different way to look at forgiveness. It put a bit of a different twist on it for me. It put a bit of a different perspective. So Dennis, thank you for sharing your wisdom, your insights, your knowledge last night. You know, and that's the beautiful thing. As much as I love the one-on-one coaching, there's some real power, some real value in being able to sit with somebody one-on-one, dig deep into their psyche, into their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations, the milestones that they're seeking. But the group dynamic is really cool because we all get to learn from each other. We all have unique lived experiences. We've all looked at, researched different things, and we all have things we can contribute. And there's such a power in contributing. There's such healing power in being able to share your story. That's a completely different topic for sure. But there is really, really a power in doing that. Anyways, my friends, that's all I got for you today. My apologies to my Facebook friends that for whatever reason that didn't go live. I don't know why. I'll have to figure that out. But I will post for later consumption. All right, my friends, any final words, questions, thoughts you want to discuss with me? There's a bit of a lag, so I'm going to sit and have my cup of coffee and see if anybody has any comments in the chat. Drop me a note. Let me know what you guys are up to today. What are you excited about? And once again, let's just practice that pause. As we move into our day, for those of you in Ontario, different time zones, you're well into it. Sometimes you got to slow down to speed up. Anne says this wasn't the rant she was expecting, but it was a good one. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Anne. All right, my friends. As always, continue to make beautiful shit happen. Let's see what we can do about fading with music and all that kind of good stuff. Do you think we can do it? What do you think? Let's try.